Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I'm JORDAN-U.S and these are the headlines. Saudi Arabia has offered a new peace initiative to Houthi rebels to end the war in Yemen. The initiative includes a nationwide ceasefire under the UN supervision and the reopening of air and sea links. Responding, Houthi rebels say there is nothing new in the offer to end fighting. China has imposed sanctions on 10 EU individuals and 4 entities that it accuses of harming its sovereignty and interests in Xinjiang. The reaction comes minutes after the EU slapped sanctions on 4 Chinese officials over alleged human rights abuses in Xinjiang. In a statement, the Chinese Foreign Ministry urged the EU not to interfere in China's internal affairs. The EU has placed Myanmar's army chief on an assets freeze and visa ban blacklist over a coup and a crackdown on demonstrators. The bloc also added 9 other military officers and the head of Myanmar's election commission to the list. Myanmar plunged into chaos after the army seized power last month and arrested elected leaders. Over 250 people have been killed and hundreds detained since then. At least 3 people have died after a massive fire swept through a Rohingya refugee camp in southern Bangladesh. According to reports, more than 700 tents have been gutted in the blaze, the cause of which is being ascertained. Over 1 million Rohingya live in camps in Bangladesh after a vast majority of them fled Myanmar during a deadly military crackdown in 2017. Indian troops have martyred 4 civilians in occupied Jammu and Kashmir's Shopian district. The youths were targeted during a cordon and search operation in Manihal area of the district. India has reported this year's highest COVID-19 deaths and infections for the 2nd day in a row. The Indian Health Ministry says 212 people lost their lives to the virus and nearly 47,000 tested positive in a day. Pakistan has registered more than 3,600 cases and 20 more deaths overnight, pushing the toll to over 13,800. The country has decided to launch a crackdown over violations of coronavirus SOPs as cases surge. Globally, the virus has claimed over 2.7 million lives and infected more than 123 million people. And in football, Barcelona have outclassed Real Sociedad 6-1 in the Spanish La Liga face-off. Lionel Messi celebrated a record-breaking 768th appearance for Barca with 2 goals. The win takes Barca back to the 2nd place on the table with 62 points, 2 clear of the 3rd-placed arch-rivals Real Madrid. Welcome back, and now for the news in detail. Saudi Arabia has offered a new peace initiative to Houthi rebels to end the war in Yemen. The initiative includes a nationwide ceasefire under the UN supervision and the reopening of air and sea links. In a statement, Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud said the initiative will take effect as soon as Houthi rebels agree to it. The Houthis have demanded the lifting of an air and sea blockade as their main precondition before any peace deal. The Saudi-led coalition has previously said the port and airport must be restricted to prevent weapons from reaching the rebels who control Yemen's capital, Sana'a. Responding to the new proposal, a spokesman for the Houthis said there is nothing new in the offer to end fighting, but he added that the rebels would continue talks with Riyadh. Meanwhile, Yemen's internationally recognized government has welcomed the Saudi initiative. China has imposed sanctions on 10 EU individuals and 4 entities that it accuses of harming its sovereignty and interests in Xinjiang. The reaction comes minutes after EU slapped sanctions on 4 Chinese officials over alleged human rights abuses in Xinjiang. The move from Brussels represents the first punitive measure against Beijing since an arms embargo in 1989. In a statement, the Chinese Foreign Ministry urged the EU not to interfere in Beijing's internal affairs. It added that the individuals concerned are prohibited from entering the mainland, Hong Kong and Macau. EU foreign ministers have slapped sanctions on Myanmar's military over the last month's coup and the subsequent crackdown on protesters. The new sanctions include freezing of assets and visa bans on Myanmar's military chief and 10 other officials. Myanmar has been rocked by anti-coup protests since the military seized power on the 1st of February and detained elected leaders. Over 250 people have been killed by the security forces as calls grow for the release of the leaders and the restoration of democracy. In Bangladesh, hundreds of shanties have been burnt after a massive fire broke out at a Rohingya refugee camp in the south. Authorities said efforts to control the blaze are underway. Rohingya leaders said more than 700 tents have been burnt after the fire went almost out of control. They added that 3 people have been reportedly killed, with several others missing in the blaze. In recent weeks, the government has moved several thousand Rohingya to a remote island despite protests from rights groups. Over 1 million Rohingya live in the mainland camps in southern Bangladesh, the vast majority having fled Myanmar in 2017 in a military-led crackdown. The Afghan Defense Ministry says the Charak district in Logar province is under the control of the government forces. The Taliban previously claimed to have gained control of the district after clashes with the security forces on a Sunday. There are no numbers available about possible casualties, but reports said that the forces made a tactical retreat from the district. Taliban spokesman Zabiullah Mujahid claimed the government forces abandoned the police headquarters and all other facilities. Meanwhile, the government says its forces have killed 22 Taliban fighters in Kandahar and Balkh provinces. The Defense Ministry added that 4 Taliban fighters, including their commander, were killed during an operation in Herat province. Indian troops have murdered 4 civilians in occupied Jammu and Kashmir's Shopian district. The youths were targeted during violent cordon and search operation in the Manihal area of the district. The identity of the murdered youths is yet to be ascertained. The Indian authorities shut mobile communication and internet in the area. The operation was going on till the last reports came in. In Niger, at least 60 people are killed in a raid in the southwestern part of the country, raising the toll up from a previous estimate of 22. Security forces have blamed ISIS for the attack, whose local affiliate is active in the zone. The violence is part of a wider security crisis across the West Africa's Sahel region. The UN's refugee agency says the attacks may be revenge for the recent arrests of the people suspected of having links with the armed groups. Last week, unidentified assailants killed at least 58 villagers in the nearby region of Tillaberi. India has reported this year's highest COVID-19 deaths and infections for the 2nd day in a row. The Indian Health Ministry says 212 people lost their lives to the virus and nearly 47,000 tested positive in a day. Globally, the virus has claimed over 2.7 million lives and infected more than 123 million people. More in this report.
While a handful of nations have bottled much of the COVID-19, many still remain in its deadly grip as the world welcomes the second spring in the pandemic. U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention says the country has administered 124.5 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines so far. However, in South America, deaths and cases continue to spike. Brazil has recorded over 1,200 COVID-19 deaths and nearly 48,000 cases in the past 24 hours. Chile reported its highest daily count of new infections despite widespread restrictions and widely praised progress on vaccinations. Mexico's archaeological attraction, the Pyramid of the Sun, remained closed at the Spring Equinox Festival.
Last year, this festival took place at the start of the pandemic, so they closed everything nationally. And now it has been repeated all over again as a precaution due to the pandemic. But I still wanted to come to this place and experiment with the spiritual peace that you find here.
The European Union has strongly rejected the British government's calls to ship AstraZeneca vaccines produced in a factory in the Netherlands. Meanwhile, Germany is set to extend a lockdown to contain the pandemic after spiking infection rates threaten the healthcare system. In France, health workers soldiered on with the country's COVID vaccination drive on the second day of a new lockdown in parts of the country.
To make vaccinations more efficient, I think today we are at a moment when we are told that doses will arrive, especially AstraZeneca. For example, in Paris, we are told that we can expect around 50,000 doses per week. So I suggest that we open the vaccination so that all those who wanted to get vaccinated could do so.
In Asia, the fresh outbreak in India's richest Maharashtra state is driving the country's overall cases to new highs in many months. The second virus surge grips the country as it marks 1-year anniversary of abrupt lockdown creating chaotic conditions.
In Pakistan, more than 3,600 people have contracted coronavirus overnight as the country grapples with a rise in infections. The health ministry said another 20 people have died of COVID-19 in the past 24 hours. It said a total of 13,863 people have died from the disease. Over 630,000 cases have been detected so far, of which more than 580,000 have recovered. The ministry said the number of active cases across the country has topped 33,000. It added over 2,400 patients are in critical condition. In Pakistan, incoming Air Chief Zahir Ahmad Babar has called on Army Chief General BAJWA in Rawalpindi. The military's media wing said General BAJWA congratulated Air Chief Marshal Babar on assuming command of the Air Force. General BAJWA said that Pakistan Air Force is the most decorated and battle-hardened Air Force in the world. The military said the Army Chief expressed his best wishes for Air Chief Marshal Babar. It said he hoped that PAF will achieve new heights under the Air Chief's capable command. President of Azad Jammu and Kashmir has acknowledged the commitment and the support of Pakistan Armed Forces to the Kashmiris' cause. Sardar Masood Khan met Pakistan's Naval Chief Admiral Mohammad Amjad Khan Niazi in Islamabad today. The two dignitaries shared concerns about human rights violations by Indian troops in the occupied Jammu and Kashmir. They also discussed the latest security situation in Kashmir. The Naval Chief reiterated that Pakistan Navy will continue to support the Kashmiri struggle for the right to self-determination. Pakistan says it will raise objections over the designs of India's Upper Kaldul and Lower Kalnai hydroelectric plants at the next water-sharing dialogue between the two countries. Foreign Ministry spokesman Zahid Hafiz Chaudhry confirmed the talks are scheduled to take place in India's capital New Delhi on March the 23rd and 24th. This will be the first meeting of Permanent Indus Commission in 3 years on Indus Water Treaty. Chaudhry said the commission is supposed to meet at least once a year under the treaty that governs water usage on the Indus. The talks follow an agreement between India and Pakistan to respect their mutual ceasefire understanding at the line of control. Pakistan's Foreign Office says the government is making every possible effort to rescue 6 of its nationals stranded at the Red Sea. In a statement, spokesperson Zahid Hafiz Chaudhry says the government is in touch with Saudi Arabia, Sudan and Egypt. He added they are also in contact with the 6 Pakistani nationals who are stranded on board a tugboat in the Red Sea. The spokesperson said the government is trying its best to complete their rescue at the earliest. More stories to follow, but right after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. President Xi Jinping says China will uphold the political settlement of the Korean Peninsula issue. State media said Xi Jinping made the remarks in a verbal message to North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un. This comes as the U.S. is attempting to contact North Korea to prevent tensions from escalating, but Washington says no response had been received so far. Three meetings between Biden's predecessor, Donald Trump, and Kim Jong-un achieved little. Washington and Pyongyang remains at odds over North Korea's nuclear and ballistic missile programs. In Taiwan, an Air Force pilot has died with another missing after their fighter jets disappeared in a suspected mid-air collision off the island's southern coast. The crash was the third such incident in past half year. Rescue officials say the two jets disappeared from radar some 2.6 kilometers off the coast of southern Pingtung County. They said one of the pilots was found unconscious in the sea but was later pronounced dead at the hospital. Rescuers are still searching for the remaining pilot. State media said the Air Force had now grounded the F-5 fleet that operates from the Shihang Air Base. In Russia, a court has upheld a decision by state investigators to not open criminal investigations into the poisoning of jailed Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny. He fell ill in August last year and was airlifted to Germany, where doctors said he had been poisoned with a nerve agent. The Kremlin has denied any role in his illness and said it has seen no proof that he was poisoned. His allies had asked authorities to open criminal cases into his poisoning and filed a legal complaint, but a Russian military court rejected their appeal, ruling that investigators' refusal to look into the matter formally was lawful. Navalny's team says it plans to appeal the ruling. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has arrived in China on a two-day visit. He was invited by Chinese State Councillor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi. In an interview ahead of his visit, the Russian Foreign Minister said high-level cooperation between Beijing and Moscow is necessary to counter the hegemonic designs of some Western countries led by the US. Lavrov said Washington is hindering the formation of a truly multipolar and democratic world. He said Moscow and Beijing will continue to promote global multipolar development and regional integration. Lavrov added it is the top priority for the two countries to ensure a fair and stable international and regional order. Egypt says it will not accept Ethiopia's unilateral steps regarding its dam on the Nile River. State media said Cairo will not accept the adverse consequences of the filling and operating of Ethiopia's Renaissance Dam. Irrigation Minister Mohammed Abdul Ati said the dam is one of the main challenges that Egypt faces in the current times. This comes days after Ethiopia rejected calls by Sudan for having outside mediators in the ongoing dispute over the dam's filling and operation. On Wednesday, Egypt's UN envoy led efforts to draft a statement outlining a clear international vision for water issues. Sudan, Egypt, and Ethiopia have been in a deadlock for nearly a decade over the filling of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. In the Republic of Congo, the opposition's main candidate in the presidential election has died while being evacuated to France for medical treatment. Guy Brice Parfait Colellis' election campaign said he was in hospital with COVID-19, which prevented him from casting his own ballot. They said Colellis' heart stopped when his plane landed in Paris and the ambulance team was unable to save him. He worked in the government for many years and came second in 2016 presidential election. The opposition candidate was seen as President Denis Sassou Nguesso's strongest challenger. The election results are expected later this week. Jordan says its recent defense agreement with the U.S. does not harm the kingdom's sovereignty. Jordan's Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Ayman Safadi said this in a parliamentary address. Safadi said the agreement is subject to Jordanian and international laws and is exclusive to fight terrorism. The deal allows free entry and exit of American troops, aircraft and vehicles into the Jordanian territory. Under the deal, American military personnel can transport and stock equipment on the kingdom's territory. The deal signed in January, bypassing the kingdom's parliament, is an extraordinary move. In the United Kingdom, several people have been injured in clashes between police and protesters at a demonstration against a government bill. The bill gives police new powers to restrict protests. Thousands of people gathered in England's western Bristol city for the Kill the Bill protest. Protesters set fire to a police vehicle, aimed fireworks at officers and scaled a police building. Police said a few hundred people resorted to violence following a peaceful rally and attacked the security personnel. France has rescued 72 migrants in the English Channel. The French maritime authorities say all rescued refugees are in good health. Authorities said the vessel of the refugees ran into difficulties just off the coast from the port city of Calais. They said the migrants were traveling to the UK. No injuries were reported, and the migrants were handed over to the border police. Former U.S. President Donald Trump is set to return to social media with his own platform in the next 2 to 3 months. In an interview, Trump's advisor Jason Miller said the new platform will completely redefine the game. Miller said it will be the hottest ticket in social media. He noted that the former president already had high-powered meetings with various teams regarding the venture. Miller predicted that Trump will draw tens of millions of people to his massive platform. The former president was suspended from Twitter and Facebook following January's deadly raids at the U.S. Capitol in Washington. Unrelenting rain in Australia's most populous state of New South Wales has worsened the country's once-in-a-century flooding. More on the devastating floods in this report.
Torrential rains have lashed Australia's southeast again, forcing thousands to evacuate their homes. The government has declared a natural disaster in large swathes of New South Wales.
Over the course of this event, we've seen some really intense rainfall rates, and it's fallen on some very wet catchments. And we've seen some increased flooding and some pretty catastrophic impacts across eastern New South Wales.
The flooding has forced 18,000 people to evacuate and shuttered hundreds of schools. The disaster has paralysed rail deliveries and left much of the livestock dead.
This has been a very significant flood event for New South Wales. I've been a flood forecaster in the Bureau for 20 years, and this is probably the worst flooding that I've experienced and I've had to forecast.
Millions of residents have been told to avoid travel and work from home after some hard-hit areas received 10 inches of rain in a day. A severe flood warning has been issued for large parts of the state as well as neighbouring Queensland. The wild weather is expected to continue in the upcoming week.
Mexico has deployed helicopters and soldiers to help firefighters battle dozens of raging wildfires in the northern state of Nuevo Leon. Officials say the country registered 50 fires across 12 states on Sunday alone. They said the raging wildfires burned through thousands of hectares of prime forest. The Cumbres de Monterrey National Park in Sierra de Santiago remains one of the worst affected. The hot and dry weather has been blamed for the increase in wildfires. Last year, Mexico registered 5,583 wildfires affecting nearly 310,000 hectares of grassland. It's time for a short break. We'll be back with more stories. Stay tuned. Welcome back. In China, a series of valuable discoveries from the SANXINGDUI ruins site have shed light on the diverse origin of the Chinese civilization. More in this report.
Back in 1986, more than 1,000 treasures were discovered in 2 sacrificial pits at SANXINGDUI. From November 2019 to May 2020, 6 new sacrificial pits of SANXINGDUI were found. Archaeologists have unearthed some important cultural relics from 4 out of 6 pits. These include a rare wooden case, bronze frieze, gold foil, gold masks, and large number of ivories. These were all dated back about 3,000 years at the SANXINGDUI ruins in Sichuan province. Top technologies have been applied to the relics from excavation to restoration, while unearthing them from SANXINGDUI ruins in southwest China's Sichuan.
The archaeological work has realized a working mode of the close integration of traditional, laboratory, science, and technological archaeology and cultural relic protection. This is expected to explore some important and key issues about the ancient Shu civilization.
So far, The team has recovered nearly 200 ivories. The archaeologists used polymer material reinforcement technology to successfully extract a piece of ivory and immediately sent it to the Cultural Relic Protection and Restoration Center. The rest of the newly discovered pits are still under excavation.
In Barcelona, Spain, ravers have adopted the commodious silent discos to keep their party going amid the coronavirus restrictions. More about this new style of partying in this report.
Restrictions on clubbing amid COVID-19 proved to be a nightmare for the partygoers. However, Barcelona ravers found a way to get around the curbs on clubs by holding outdoor silent discos in some of the city's best-known locations. The party peeps welcomed spring by putting on their headphones and tripping to the music, all while respecting social distancing regulations.
We asked ourselves what we could do to boost the dance now that there are so many restrictions, and we had the idea to do it outdoors and with headphones. We first told friends and acquaintances that the people joined because we do it outdoors and in beautiful places where we don't bother anyone and we maintain the safe distance.
What started as a fun meetup between friends has grown into a regular Sunday morning event, the Tribu Silent Disco. One took place at the famous magic fountain in the neighborhood of Montjuic.
It's been incredible, amazing. I didn't expect to find so many people here, and at the beginning it was a little weird because you're dancing in the middle of Barcelona. People look at you, but in a friendly way, like they were asking, what's happening here? This is interesting. I believe it's a good choice for a Sunday morning, coming here and connecting with the music.
Silent discos have proven to be a more fun experience as compared to conventional clubbing. Their greater sense of control, environmentally friendly nature, and better comfort level have made them a new trend in the world of partying.
And now the business updates. Wall Street's main indices have risen as technology stocks rebounded from a recent pullback sparked by a surge in bond yields. The Dow Jones Industrial Average Index opened 0.1% higher, while the tech-heavy Nasdaq Composite rose nearly 1% at open. The S&P 500 index opened nearly 0.5% higher. Meanwhile, oil prices declined over worries about a drop in demand for fuel products in the wake of more European lockdowns. Another weather situation from around the globe. And that's all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus.News.